Good evening, councillors. You are hereby summoned to attend a meeting of the Charity Trustees, Mid-Sussex District Council, being held in the Council Chamber on today, Wednesday, 12th of October at 6:45, to transact the following business. I welcome you all here and advise the meeting members that the meeting is being live streamed and everyone should await their microphone light turning red before speaking in order to be heard. I'm now going to read the fire evacuation information. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, please leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Follow the green signs to the assembly point, large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after other people have left. Please do not return to the building until it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the council site is a no smoking area. Filming from the public gallery is permitted, but members must please refrain from filming within the council chamber so as not to distract the meeting. Mobile phones must be switched to silent. Thank you. Item 1. To confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on 29th of June 2022, pages 3 to 6. I believe we're going to go straight on to voting on this item unless anyone has anything they wish to raise. I see none. So please vote on your, in front of you on your machine, please. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results will be displayed and are affirmative 74%, no 0, abstain 2%. 1 person. Thank you. Moving on to item 2. To receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any item of matter on the agenda. Please indicate a wish to speak by pressing the button on the microphone under their name, under your name. I have none. Item 3, to consider any items that the chairman of the Charity Trust agreed to take as urgent business. I have none. Item 4. Council Charitable Land is the annual operational report, the 1st of April 2021 to 31st of March 2022, pages 7 to 52 on your agenda. I'm going to invite the Head of Regulatory Services, Tom Clark, to speak on this item.
Thank you, Chairman. This is your annual report where we approve the accounts of our various charities. There's also an update on what the charities have been doing. There's nothing further in the recommendation tonight, so it's just to approve the accounts and agree what you've seen in the report.
Have any member got any questions or comments? Please indicate via your microphone unit if you have.
No.
I see none. So I'm going to move the item from the chair, and the recommendations are on page 30. Oh, John Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. No, it was just a quick comment. Residents will note, or councillors will note in paragraph 52 that the village council of Ashurst Wood have installed a defibrillator on the pavilion, and also I've just purchased some outdoor gym equipment for the John Pears Field as well. And I just wanted to thank officers for being amenable to working so closely with the village council to allow the equipment to be installed. And I'd also like to thank the village council and the clerk for all the work that they've done in proposing a scheme on district council land, on district council owned land, and actually that complements some of the work that they've already done investing in facilities in John Pearsfield alongside the work that Mid Sussex does in John Pearsfield as well, meaning that we've got tennis courts and playgrounds and football pitches maintained by ourselves alongside the Blue Heart Field, plus a basketball court, outdoor gym equipment, and the Muga wall that has been invested in by the village council. I think it's quite unusual where we get the parish and the district council working so closely together to enhance what is a lovely community space, and I would encourage all parish councils or other bodies that might be thinking of investing in these challenging times. We don't want to necessarily all bear the burden of costs alone, and I think the partnership working in this situation is really good, and I would like to encourage more of it across the district. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. So the recommendation on page 13, the charity trustees are recommended to note and agree the contents of this report and approve the charity's accounts for 2021-2022. Could you vote using the microphone touchscreen, please? Thank you. The vote is now closed. The result numbers are now being displayed and are yes 72%, no 2%,
No abstention.
no abstentions. So it is agreed, and thank you very much. I'm going to now conclude the meeting, stating the time being 18:50. And thank you. I suggest if members may wish to remain seated, as the main council meeting will follow at 7 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, all members of the council. You are hereby summoned to attend this meeting of the Mid-Sussex District Council being held in this council chamber today, Wednesday, the 12th of October, 2022 at 7 p.m. to transact the following business. I offer a warm welcome to everyone, to all councillors, officers, and including public speakers we will be hearing their questions in due course. As members will be aware, this council meeting was postponed in September following the sad death of Her Majesty the Queen. I now ask the council to stand to mark a minute's silence in memory of our late monarch. I will now ask the Vice Chairman to read the opening prayer.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. O Lord, grant us courage to strive for what is right and good, courtesy to listen to those of different opinion, strengthen us through our difficulties and pressures, and guide us in your deliberations so that we may act in the interest of all in our district, to the glory of your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Item 2, to receive questions from members of the public pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 9. I believe we have 2 questions received. The first question is from Mr. Kenward.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Good evening, Council. In my capacity as one of the principal organisers of the Haywards Heath Arts Festival, having read the final report made by Bot Consulting on the future of Clare Hall, they make reference to the fact that Haywards Heath has cultural provision typical for a town of its size. Could Council please state what the cultural provisions and facilities referred to were in their comparisons, and also what were the towns that Haywards Heath was compared with in order to reach that conclusion?
Thank you, Mr. Kenward. I'm now going to pass your question for response to the Councillor Asher Edwards, the leader.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your question, Mr. Kenwood. You'll be aware that BOP is a nationally and internationally recognised research and consulting practice for culture and the creative economy. Their 2 reports are based on their extensive experience working with cities and towns across the country. The comparison is based on their standard approach to mapping the cultural and creative sector. They detail their methodology, the methodology they used, including the indicators they looked at when mapping the cultural landscape in the area in their interim report published in July. The mapping exercise outcomes are detailed in the table on page 12 of the interim report in section 4. Appendix B of the report provided more details on the mapping indicators and their definitions.
Thank you. Mr. Kenwood, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Only to reiterate that the second part of my question wasn't answered when I asked for the towns that Haywards Heath was compared with.
All right. Leader, do you wish to respond in the meeting or provide a written response?
Chairman, thank you. I'd just direct Mr. Kenwood to the relevant sections of the report that I did quote, page 12 and Appendix B of the interim report from BOP, which does set out in detail the mapping and methodology that they used.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm now going to move on to the second question, which is from Miss Wilcock. Would you like to proceed?
Madam Chairman? Councillors, thank you. The BOP report, Lead Specialist Advisor Clare Hall final report, recently released by the Council, based its advice on potential sector target audiences by reference to a Council report which is now more than 6 years out of date and certainly does not take into account the recent extensive housing developments. Empirical evidence from the recent Haywards Heath Arts Festival shows, in particular, there is a strong demand and support for performance-based arts and cultural activities by young people, with the events being sold out with standing room only. What action, please, is the Council going to take to accurately ascertain the current demographics and demand of the community of Haywards Heath before taking any further action in relation to Clare Hall?
Thank you very much, Ms Wilcock. I'm now going to ask the leader, Councillor Ash-Evans, to respond to your question.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Ms Wilcock, for your question. And it's pleasing to hear of the success of the Haywards Heath Arts Festival and pleasing that you found venues for those events. BOP based their advice on numerous information sources in their report. This included the 2021 census results, which were partially released this summer. In their report, they observed that in the new census data suggests the demographic changes across Mid-Sussex district as a whole support the trends estimated in the report you referred to. I welcome the comments based on the recent empirical evidence, and BOP's work recognises the strength of our local audience and accounted for that in their final report and recommendations, which will be published by Cabinet, considered by Cabinet next week. This is certainly something we will promote and want to build on going forward. Equally, BOP advise us that it is a very challenging economic environment to deliver culturally focused projects, and therefore the Council is taking this robust evidence-based approach to the project, and we believe that gives the best chance to take the work forward and be successful in securing a cultural anchor tenant for the Clare Hall site. Thank you, Chairman.
Ms Wilcock, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
I'd like to understand, please, does that mean that you are not going to have any review of the audience sectors referred to in the BOP report, which may well in fact be inaccurate?
Thank you. Councillor Ash-Evans, do you wish to respond or at this time? Or?
Thank you, Chairman. I think I've answered that in relation to BOP using the most up-to-date evidence in their report, including the 2021 census data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to move on to item 3 to confirm the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Council held on the 10th of August 2022. The items are on page 5 to 10 of the agenda. We're going to move to vote using the microphone touch screen. I'm sorry.
Who wants to speak? Councillor Eggleston.
Okay, Councillor Eggleston, I'm... Did he want to speak?
I don't know. No, I think he wants to vote. They clearly agreed. I think we're just, let's just wait till the commission.
Probably me.
Could be a bit assertive with it.
Just pausing to make sure that everybody has had the opportunity to vote. Thank you.
Those are agreed.
That is agreed. I'm now moving on to item 4, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Members, please indicate if you wish to speak by pressing the button under your name on the microphone. have Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in agenda item 9 as I'm leader of Burgess Hill Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in item 12 as a member of Worth Parish Council.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd also need to declare an interest in item 12 as I'm a member of the Worth Parish Council.
Thank you. Councillor Coote.
I also need to declare an interest as a member of Worth Parish Council, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Coote. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in item 9 because I'm a member of Belsey Town Council. Thank you.
Josh. Councillor Rodney Jackson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in item 11 as I'm a member of Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council.
Thank you. Councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest under item 10 on the agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Cartwright.
Item 9, Burgess Hill Town Council member.
Thank you. Could I just remind members that when they wish to speak, they should stand during this meeting. Councillor Eaves.
Item 9, Burgess Hill Town Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hicks.
Item 9 as a member of Burgess Hill Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor Henwood.
Item 9, a member of Burgess Hill Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish.
Item 9, member of Burgess Hill Town Council. Thank you.
Councillor Hussain.
Yes, same thing. Councillor of Town Council. Thank you.
I could have actually asked who didn't want to speak. Councillor Roger Webb, please.
Item 12, member of Worth Parish Council.
And Councillor Graham Allen.
Item 9, Burgess Hill Town Council.
Thank you. I think we've done that. I apologise. Councillor John DeBell.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm a member of East Grinstead Town Council.
Thank you, Councillor DeBell. Okay, so we are moving on to item 5, to consider any items that the chairman of the council agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. Moving on to item 6 is the chairman's announcements. There is 1 week to go to purchase tickets for my fundraising music night held on the 20th of October in support of the Kangaroos Disability Clubs. All members and their families are invited to help support such a fantastic charity. Thank you. As councillors know, Tom Clark is retiring at the end of the month after 15 years with Mid Sussex District Council. I would like to thank Tom for all his assistance and advice to me personally and on behalf of all councillors. I am now going to ask the leader to say a few words. Councillor Ash Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And as you said, Tom's been with the council for 15 years and over that time has contributed very significantly to the council's work as solicitor to the council, monitoring officer, and indeed, of course, as returning officer as well. And so you have shaped the election of a very large number of people to public office in that time through that duty, Tom. And on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank you very much for your service. I know that members have always appreciated Tom's advice and expertise in local government matters, and in particular, I've always been very grateful for the very pragmatic way that Tom seeks to provide that advice and support to members. And Tom has also always carried out his role with a great sense of humour that can often liven up a meeting. And over the years, many members will have found themselves in a meeting when something amusing has been said, and the meeting has continued, but in the corner, Tom has been chalking away to himself, desperately trying to suppress laughter at whatever has happened, and in doing so has livened up many a meeting for all of us. So Tom, we will miss you, and we wish you a very happy and enjoyable retirement, and thank you again.
I'm going to ask Councillor Alison Bennett to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Tom, for many a year, for the members of my group, your name was a declaration at the bottom of a set of election results where we hadn't done very well, and the chap with the microphone at the triangle at the count. However, after our election in 2019, that changed, and I've been lucky enough to get to know you a little better since then. You have, without exception, been patient and kind and courteous as we have gradually learnt the ropes, and I've appreciated your wise counsel, your genial manner, and the twinkle in your eye when you go about ensuring that matters are in hand, and sometimes when they're not in hand. Thank you, Tom, for your service. On behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group, we would like to wish you a happy and fulfilling retirement.
I'm now going to invite Matthew Cornish to speak.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of our Green and Independent Group, we'd like to thank you, Tom, for your service and your help in the 3 or so years that we've been here, and we've been very lucky to have your advice and your guidance throughout that time, and we wish you best for your retirement. So thank you very much.
And now I'm going to invite Ian Gibson to speak.
Tom, when I started as a parish councillor 10 years ago, your name cropped up almost immediately as the goalkeeper and enforcer of all local government matters in mid-Sussex, our very own Hercules. Admittedly, our early interactions centred on my efforts to prize information out of this council on various matters, and I've discovered your determination to defend both information and elected councillors. I know that you take losing a planning appeal or a judicial review very personally. And so far this year, Tom and I have sparred on the introduction of this appalling voting system, the related amendment of the Constitution, my completely justified attempt to call in the 2019 Cabinet decision to sell the Inverhorn Lane car park, and of course his insistence that political balance means that the independents don't get a seat of any of the important working groups, and in all of those cases I've failed to make any headway whatsoever. On the plus side, on many occasions, he's drawn on his considerable knowledge and authority to give me advice, and I have always followed it. There was, however, one occasion on which his advice proved to be very unsatisfactory. Councillors will recall that the 2015 elections were a particularly low point for this council. Much to the annoyance of Councillor Marsh and others, I was getting close to denying the Conservatives a clean sweep when Tom advised me, as returning officer, to request a recount. I did, and ended up with 6 votes fewer than before. I can't imagine Tom being retired, and I suspect this council is going to miss him a lot. Tom, on behalf of the Independent Group, I'd like to thank you for your many years of service and to wish you a long and happy retirement. Thank you.
I have some councillors that wish to speak. Councillor Bradbury.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. It just seems appropriate to me, as I'm now in my second stint of Chairman of the Standards Committee, just to thank Tom for all the work he's done in that regard. And I know that members of the Standards Committee, both those who are councillors here, those who have been members of parish and town councils who've been part of the Standards Committee, and the independent persons would all want to thank Tom for his service, wise counsel, and aforementioned sense of humour, which I've felt the butt of on more than one occasion.
Thank you, Councillor Bradbury. I'm now going to ask Councillor Marsh to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As one of the few who've been around for a while, and I can look around the chambers, quite a few still actually longer, not as long, but as long. Tom, you've been a good friend to this council. You've guided us with your wise words. As Councillor Bradbury just said, yes, I've been at a few butt ends as well. You told me I can't do that. Tom, you've been a good friend. Thank you very much. Enjoy your retirement, mate. Thank you.
Councillor Salisbury.
Thank you, Chairman. When you watch planning committees, for those of you that do, sitting at the end of the bench is our legal advisor. I think people miss, when they're considering planning, the very valuable and extremely in-depth input from our legal advisor, Tom. And on many occasions, he has given us this type of advice which has made us successful at appeals and has prevented, dare I say, some committees heading into the wrong direction. And it's been really, really powerful stuff. And I thank you for that, Tom. It's very, very good, sound advice, which we will dearly miss in our planning. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, I seem to have Councillor Trumbull.
Thank you, Chairman. I speak as an ex-chairman, and as you will know, Chairman, and as Councillor Forbes will know, as a chairman, sometimes you get lost in this maze of process. Gosh, where am I going now? What happens now? Well, there are two people that help you out through that maze and lead you through it. And one, of course, is our estimable Chief Executive, but primarily Tom Clark. And gosh, in my term as chairman, we did have some mazes to navigate. And thank you, Tom, for your help in leading us through that. I think your advice has been welcome, not just as a chairman, but throughout my time. Councillor Salisbury mentioned planning, where you've been heavily involved in that also. Advice, Tom, that you give, but is not always welcome, but it's the right advice. Advice that's always brief, a few words long, to the point, and often very witty. So thank you, Tom. Doors close and doors open, and another door is opening for Tom now. And I hope, and I'm sure everybody here hopes, that that door which is opening is going to lead to bright, interesting and challenging things. Thank you, Tom, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you very much, councillors. I couldn't agree with everything that has been said, and our grateful thanks go to you for all you have done. Thank you. I am now moving on to item 7, the report of the returning officer as to the person elected as district councillor for the ward of Balney on the 15th of September 2022. I'm going to move this item from the chair. Pages are 11 to 12 of your agenda. You do not need to speak on this item. Should we just move the item? Okay. Has anyone got any questions or comments they wish to make? If not, we're going to move straight to the vote. If everyone can vote now on their microphones. Oh, I apologise. The full recommendation is on page 11. The council notes the election of Councillor Christy Adams as district councillor for Balney. Please use the the screen to vote.
I think we're nearly there. Just a couple of minutes. I think you've already done it. Agreed.
That is agreed. Thank you. I would personally like to thank on behalf of the council I'd like to welcome, a very warm welcome to Councillor Christy Adams to this council evening. I'm now going to move on to item 8, the appointment of senior officers, which is proposed by Councillor Ash Edwards. It's on pages 13 to 18 of your agenda. Councillor Ash Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The report is self-explanatory, but is a statutory requirement that the Council formally approves the appointments as recommended by the Chief Executive to the statutory posts. And in doing so, in proposing this report, can I just welcome the completion of the work the Chief Executive has been doing on the restructure, and I think it's very pleasing indeed that the Council has been able to attract such a high quality group of new officers to support the Council and take us forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. This item is seconded by Councillor J. Belsey. Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. Has any members got any question or comments they wish to raise on this item on the agenda? No. I see none. Councillor Belsey, do you wish to speak?
I'm happy to second the item, Chairman.
Thank you. So the full recommendation is on page 13. The Council is recommended to agree the appointment of A. Rachel Jarvis as the Councillor's Section 151 officer, B. Jeff Wild as the Councillor's interim monitoring officer, C. Catherine Hall as the Councillor's returning officer and electoral registration officer, D. Louise Duffield to the Director of Resources and Organisation Development post. Members, please vote. Using your vote, use the microphone touch screen, please.
That's agreed.
That's agreed. Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 9, which is the Community Governance Review, the final recommendations for Burgess Hill Town Council and Ensti and Stapleford Parish Councils. This item is on pages 19 to 26 of your agenda. The item is proposed by Councillor Anthea Lee. Would you like to introduce this item, Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chairman. The Community Governance Review of Burgess Hill Town Council and Ensti and Stapleford Parish Council was started following the submission of a valid petition by the required number of local registered electors. The petition required this council to review the electoral wards of Burgess Hill Town Council, considering the Local Government Boundary Commission's creation of 2 new parish wards in the Northern Arc. And because of the consequential impact for the neighbouring parish council, it was resolved that there would be a review of council numbers for Ensti and Stapleford Parish Council. This report now comes to council following 2 public consultations and thorough scrutiny by committee. I therefore propose that this council approve the principal electoral authority's final recommendations for Burgess Hill Town Council and Ensti and Stapleford Parish Council, as set out at paragraphs 19 to 27 of this report. Accepting the names resolved by the Scrutiny Committee for Northern Arc East and Northern Arc West as outlined at paragraphs 20 and 21. That is, that Northern Arc East Ward should be named Burgess Hill Brookley East Ward and Northern Arc West Ward should be named Burgess Hill Brookley West Ward. This is because Homes England has identified Brookley as the name for this community following local public consultation. In addition, I propose that this council resolves that this electoral authority should consider a fresh community governance review when there are residents living there who can be consulted in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. This item was going to be seconded by Councillor Boutrop, who sadly is unwell. So it is now going to be seconded by Councillor John de Bell. Would you like to speak or reserve your right to?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor de Bell. Has any member got any question or comment that they wish to put forward? Please do so by indication on your microphone button if you wish to speak. Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The recommendations tonight, save for the proposed changes, are in line with the Burgess Hill Growth Strategy and the district plan concerning the integration of the Northern Arc with Burgess Hill. I'm delighted that we finally got to the point on the settlement of the boundary and the appropriate number of councillors for each of the two parishes. Assuming we support these recommendations, there's just the matter of naming of the two Burgess Hill parish wards. In paragraph 13 of tonight's report, officers state that the case for better and more localised naming of the two new parish electoral wards is persuasive, and that there is no statutory reason to use the names adopted by Homes England. I'm sure the name Brookley will be attractive when marketing homes for sale, but it does not follow that it needs to be used for parish council warding purposes. And this isn't unusual. West End Meadow, Priory Village, Kingsweald and The Croft being 4 examples where the housing development name is different to the ward name. Unlike Balney, which relates to the baronetcy created for the Kleinwort family in 1909, Brookley is a work of fiction. There is no such place, landmark or historic reference on the outskirts of Burgess Hill with this name. It is the combination of brook, a reference to the Copyhold and World's End streams, and Lee being Middle English for clearing in the trees, not hill, as I mentioned at Scrutiny Committee. The recommendation of officers was that the wards should be called St Paul's and Beadlands because that was the feedback from the consultation. That recommendation fell to an amendment changing the names to Brookley East and West. That passed narrowly, but no member from Burgess Hill backed it. There is no unanimous voice from Scrutiny Committee. The legal position on CGRs is covered by the Local Government and Public Involvement in Health Act 2007 and the Department of Communities and Local Government Guidance published in March 2010. The Act says that principal councils must have regard to the guidance, and the guidance on naming parish wards says that in considering the names of parish wards, the principal council should give some thought to existing local or historic places so that where appropriate, these are reflected and there should be a presumption in favour of ward names proposed by local interested parties. A presumption in law can only be rebutted by evidence, not opinion. Now, I agree that the guidance is not law, and members may depart from it and our officers' recommendation. And it is my view that we should follow the original recommendation of our officers and the result of the consultation and call the two wards St Paul's and Beadlands because they are clearly identifiable landmarks. I am not going to push that point tonight. I know that the boundary review has been a sensitive issue for some members in this chamber, so I will not push that point, and I will not push the point about a further community governance review in 2 years' time, because I am confident, as you will discover, that the people of Burgess Hill will support the views that were expressed this time round, next time round as well. And I see this just as an attempt to deny the rights of the people of Burgess Hill to get what they were promised in the growth strategy, in the district plan, and in a letter I received from the head of regulatory services in 2019, that the Northern Arc would form part of Burgess Hill.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Gibson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I support what Councillor Eggleston said. My point is a different point, and it's one that I've raised throughout the Scrutiny Committee's discussion, but hasn't come forward into the report to Council. There's 25,000 electors in Burgess Hill that received letters twice on this. 82 bothered to respond. That's 0.3%. Now, I believe that that is indicative of a failure of this council to conduct these reviews in a way that was accessible. And I think that we have to bear that in mind should we repeat any of these reviews in future. It would be typical to get, in contentious reviews, 50% responses, in others 5 to 7% of those which have gone on in recent years. So this is disappointing from that point of view, and it's a comment which applies to all of the reviews. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Peter Bradbury.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just a couple of brief comments, if I may. First of all, it was interesting to listen to Councillor Eggleston's exposition. Nonetheless, the fact remains that this area is now known as Brookley. Now, we may or may not think that that's a particularly conducive or attractive name, but that is the name, and the people who are going to move into that area are going to have the properties that are in that area marketed to them under that name. And it seems to me, therefore, to be completely appropriate that those names of Brookley East and West are used. And I would reference also, in terms of that comment, that as a person who has a particular interest in it, in that, as colleagues will know, that area forms part of my county council division. And I'm not sure if at this point I should probably just declare that as an interest. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but I will anyway. So that's my opinion. I think Brookley East and West are the right names. The second thing is just in terms of the review in 2025, and Councillor Eggleston may well be right. The entire point of this, and as we've said previously in scrutiny and in this chamber, is that the people who are going to move into that area have not yet had the opportunity to be consulted. And I'm perfectly content that when they're consulted in 2025, we'll accept what they think. And Councillor Eggleston may well be right that they want to remain as part of Burgess Hill. I do think it's the right democratic thing to do, though, for this council to give them the opportunity to have their say.
Thank you, Councillor Bradbury. Councillor Simon Hicks, please.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I support the outcome of the review. We finally got there, despite the best efforts of Haywards Heath, East Grinstead councillors telling Burgess Hill what they should be doing. It's just a pity that we get to the final stretch, and the local names that the Burgess Hill residents have wanted to call, that they will recognise these areas, have been switched to a brand name decided in London. I suppose we're lucky it's not Barrett Homes that they've decided to call these new wards. They are recognisable local landmarks in terms of Beelands and St Paul's, chosen by local people, just as the other ward names are. And it seems a shame that now we're talking about another review just to make sure that people want to stay in Burgess Hill. Maybe extend that to the other wards in Burgess Hill or Haywards Heath and split Haywards Heath down the middle. It just seems ridiculous. The council is wasting money because of this vendetta against Burgess Hill. Just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to invite the seconder, Councillor de Bell, to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As we were well aware at the Scrutiny Committee, this is not the final word. What's in a name? I think Brookley is a really nice name, personally. It tends to quite beat the name that I live under in my street. I wouldn't have chosen that, but I do know that the people that we have town twinning with are lovely people, so there we go. But I think Brookley's rather a nice name, but that's not my decision to make. As Councillor Bradbury says, the people that will be moving to the Northern Arc don't live, probably, in Burgess Hill at the moment. It will be completely new people moving to that area. Whether they eventually decide, when the final process is through, that that's what they would like their name to be, their place to be named, is going to be down to them. And I think that that's the important factor. There is no way that the Scrutiny Committee were trying to run down the people who already live in Burgess Hill, or even the people that were on that particular committee. And this is a provisional decision from that Scrutiny Committee that was absolutely democratically reached at the time, giving everyone the chance to speak up. And therefore, I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor de Bell. I have no... Councillor Egg.
Thank you, Chairman, for letting me coming back. I'd just like a bit of legal comment from Mr. Clark around whether this community governance review is provisional or not.
Clearly there will be a new council by 2025, and the intention would be to bring various reviews back. One that's waiting is Haywards Heath, and that committee at that time will need to decide what it does with it. It may decide to go ahead with the review, or it may decide not. It depends really on what people are saying by that time.
Thank you. I have no other speaker. I'm going to state the recommendations being voted on for the benefit of members and viewers and listeners. Full recommendations on page 19, and the Council is recommended to approve the Principal Electoral Authority's final recommendations for Burgess Hill Town Council and Ensti and Stapleford Parish Council as set out in paragraphs 19 to 27 of this report. Decide the names for the two wards added to Burgess Hill to the north and west of the existing boundaries. Could members please vote using the...
Yeah, you just need to correct that. Just let Tom just explain the resolution.
Just going to refer to Mr. Clark.
The motion is of this report, and then to say that the wards should be Burgess Hill, Brookley East, that's the one on the Beedland side, and Burgess Hill, Brookley West, the one on the St Paul's side. And for the review possibility in 2025, along with whatever other reviews there are at that time.
Thank you for clarifying that. So, members, please vote using the microphone touchscreen, please.
Tom will read them out for you.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask Mr. Clark to read out the result of the voting.
Thank you, Chairman. The motion's carried with 32 in favour and 12 abstentions.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to move on to item 10, the Community Governance Review, the final recommendations for East Grinstead Town Council, pages 27 to 32 on your agenda. This item is proposed by Councillor Anthea Lee and is going to be seconded by Councillor John de Bell in the absence of Councillor Boutrop. Councillor Lee.
The Community Governance Review of East Grinstead Town Council requested that the Council consider how East Grinstead Town Council parish boundaries could be aligned with the district wards and for there to be a reduction in councillor numbers from 19 to 16. This report now comes to this Council following 2 public consultations and thorough scrutiny by committee. I therefore have no hesitation to propose that this council approves the final recommendations of the Principal Electoral Authority as set out at paragraph 16 to 20 of this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Have I got any questions or comments from any members on this item? I see none. So we're going to move members to voting to approve the Prince. Oh, apologies. Councillor Bell, do you wish to speak on this item?
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Okay, so the full recommendation is on page 27. The council is recommended to approve the Principal Electoral Authority's final recommendations for East Grinstead Town Council as set out in paragraphs 16 to 20 of this report. Please vote using the microphone touch screen.
When I speak on worth, do I have to stand up? Yeah, I sit down.
I'm going to ask Mr. Clerk to read the result, please.
Chairman, that was 38 in favour, 1 against and 5 abstentions, so the motion's carried.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to item 11, the Community Governance Review, final recommendations for Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council, pages 33 to 38 on your agenda. This item is again proposed by Councillor Anthea Lee and seconded by Councillor John de Bell. Councillor Lee.
Chairman. The Community Governance Review of Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council was started following the submission of a valid petition by the required number of local registered electors. It called for this council to constitute a new parish council for the existing Sayers Common parish ward. This report now comes to this council again following 2 public consultations and thorough scrutiny by committee. So I have no hesitation in proposing that full council approve the Principal Electoral Authority's final recommendations for Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council as set out at paragraphs 23 to 26 of this report, which is to make no change to the governance arrangements of Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor de Bell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Does any member wish to speak on this? I have 2. Councillor Rodney Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. This parish is in my ward, and I'm also a parish councillor for Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common. I support the conclusions of the review. I do note in item 1 and 2 of the recommendations that the village of Sayers Common, and I appreciate there are a number of local residents in Sayers Common who want a new parish council, but part of the Sayers Common ward includes areas north of Hurst Pierpoint, and those residents, or quite a lot of those residents, which are east of the A23, identify with Hurst Pierpoint rather than Sayers Common. Therefore, I appreciate and accept the recommendations made in this report. The second thing is that in terms of the make-up of the Hurst Pierpoint and Sayers Parish Council, there's no change, i.e. 13 members in the Hurst Pierpoint ward and 2 in the Sayers Common ward. I accept that as okay, and I agree that delay of a further look at the governance review to 2029, when there may be further developments and further properties in the area, and there may well be better look at the numbers of people living in the area of the Sayers Common village.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I'd now like to ask Councillor Trumbull to speak on this item.
Thank you, Chairman. I shall be uncharacteristically brief. Thank you, Councillor Walker. As members know, Hurst Pierpoint and Sayers Common parish falls within my ward, one of the parishes that I and others look after. There's no question that Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common have somewhat distinct identities. And no doubt, if indeed there is further development in and around Sayers Common, that distinction will be further underlined. However, for the reasons outlined in the report, this is not the time to go redrawing parish boundaries. It may well be the time in future to do so, but time will tell. So I support, like Councillor Jackson, I support the recommendations of this report, and I urge Council to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trumbull. I have no... Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to add my support to the recommendations along with Councillor Jackson and Councillor Trumbull.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. I'm now going to go to the seconder of this motion, Councillor John de Bill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I believe that the things that have been said on this particular matter are sufficient, and therefore I would second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor de Bill. I'm now going to move to voting. I'm going to state the recommendations being voted on for the benefit of the members, viewers and listeners. The full recommendation is on page 33. The Council has recommended to approve the Principal Electoral Authority's final recommendations for Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council as set out at paragraphs 23 to 26 of this report to make no changes to the governance arrangements for Hurst, Pierpoint and Sayers Common Parish at this time. Could members please vote using the microphone touch screen? Councillor Clark, would you... Mr Clark.
The vote is 43 in favour and 1 abstention, so it's carried, Chairman.
You never know what your retirement will bring to you. Okay, I'm going to move on to item 12, the Community Governance Review, final recommendations for Worth Parish Council. Set out on pages 39 to 44 of your agenda. This item is again proposed by Councillor Lee and is seconded by Councillor John de Bill. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. This community governance review of Worth Parish Council was started again following the submission of a valid petition by the requisite number of electors. The petition called on this council to constitute a new parish council for the existing Crawley Down parish ward. This report now comes to council following 2 public consultations and thorough scrutiny by committee. I have no hesitation in proposing full council approve the Principal Electoral Authority's final recommendations for Worth Parish Council as set out in paragraphs 25 to 31 of this report. It is to make no changes to the governance arrangements of Worth Parish Council at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor de Bill, do you wish to reserve your right to speak at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor de Bill. May I have any notification of anybody who wishes to speak on this? And I'm going to refer to Councillor Coote.
Thank you, Chairman. During the scrutiny committee, Councillor Gibson made a statement saying that I initiated the proposed split between Crawley Down and Coxthorne. That is fundamentally untrue. Councillor Gibson asked me to approach the district council, which I did. I spoke to Terry Stanley. His advice was given to me. I conveyed that to Councillor Gibson and he chose to ignore it. And at all times, he has been the leader of this division. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Coote. I'm going to ask Councillor Christopher Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. I accept the comments that in the report that at some stage in the future, once the developments that are currently planned for Crawley Down and Copthorne are complete, that there could be a case for the two villages splitting into two separate parish councils. But I don't think now is the time. There are too many legal issues, and the cost, I think, would be unreasonable for the members, for the electorate at the current time. There's one minor point that I would take issue with in the report, and that's over the naming of the council. It says that Worth reflects the area. Well, in fact, there is a complication in that there is an area in Crawley called Worth, and at a meeting some years ago with the then chairman of the county council, she said to me, "Oh, you've got that nice 10th century church in your area." We haven't. It's in Worth in Crawley. And I would suggest that the name of Copthorne and Crawley Down would reflect the area better, but that's an issue for another day. But I do agree with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I just follow on from Councillor Phillips' comment about Worth. Of course, Worth Church and Worth is in Pound Hill, and the residents of Pound Hill have for years been changing the street signs from Pound Hill to Worth. So they feel very much that that's part of the Worth parish. And of course, the ancient Worth parish encompassed what's now Turner's Hill, Crawley Down, and Copthorne. And those three parishes were created at the end of the 19th century. So I think it's lost its way. And the one thing I was hoping that would come out of this, if nothing else, was that it would be, to my mind, correctly renamed as the parishes of Copthorne and Crawley Down, or the other way round. But anyway, that hasn't happened. I've been following this by looking at the agendas of the scrutiny meetings, community scrutiny meetings, and I was being really surprised by the way the second report has singled out the efforts that were made by a councillor here to offer information to the community at Crawley Down and allow them and give them an opportunity to make a response of one of the numbers of responses. And I think that that's a very reasonable and fluent way of gaining responses, because I've found in the years I've been a parish councillor, which is nearly 20 now, that people don't understand the role of parish councils very well. And moreover, parish councils they thrive better when they're really local. And you can't say that Crawley Down and Copthorne are really local. They're separated by the A264 road. And, you know, if you want to attend a parish council meeting, you basically, most people are going to get in a car and drive, because they're not that far apart, but you can't sensibly cycle or walk, really. So, you know, the parish councils that Worth are joined with, in my own council, West Hoveley, for example, they're all reasonable size, small parishes, you know, not more than 2,000 souls. And this joint council is, as we know, it's getting on for over 9,000. So we also have, what do we call it? Cluster meetings, which have been a really valuable feature of local councils, local parish councils. And you always feel that they have a difficulty. They could take over the whole cluster meeting as this one huge council. So I think it's a bit of a mismatch. Anyway, I won't go on too much more. I've had my 3 minutes, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've been dealing with a number of football pitch issues recently, and it struck me that parish councils have a lot in common with football clubs. They're both strong indicators of community identity. They both provide community cohesion, and they both provide services to their residents. And as it turns out, they're both subject to cost caps. This review has had many similarities with a football season. It's been a game of two halves, and we even played extra time. Like Brighton, we lost our initial team manager to a better offer from a bigger club shortly after the season started. And like Graham Potter, he took his backroom staff with him. However, the remaining petitioners have performed well and attracted good crowds, with over 500 residents signing the petition. The petition only wanted us to play home games in Crawley Down, but Democratic Services insisted that we play home and away. And despite winning the playoff by 4-1, 240 residents coming up with they wanted Crawley Down, we haven't been promoted. If a governance review was really like football, Democratic Services would be called to the monitor to take another look. So instead, we've been denied by an unexpected and somewhat arbitrary rule on cost caps. If only we'd been a motorsport team. But finally, as paragraph 28 of the report points out, there's always next season. I don't for a minute believe that there's anyone in this room who doesn't think that Crawley Down deserves its own parish council, its own voice in local government. Many of you are members of parish councils for smaller communities, and you know how important that voice is. Every community is unique, and every community has its own unique issues. I know the way that the vote's going to go. Crawley Down will have to wait for its own parish council. It's just not today, not with this council. I'll finish by thanking the officers and look forward to working with them again in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. I'm going to have no other speaker. I'm going to refer to Councillor de Bell, seconder of this motion.
During the scrutiny committee, there was a lot of sympathy for the feelings of the people of Crawley Down that wanted to operate a separate council. And the good news was, as we saw it, that it was not right at this time, but that at some stage in the future, when things change, as they inevitably will, that might well come to pass. And we wish them well in that. But for financial reasons at the moment, the tipping balance was that it wasn't right at this time. I tend to agree with what Councillor Gibson said about the football match. Got me really going there, actually. Anyway, I will second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor de Bell. I'm going to state the recommendations being voted on for the benefit of members and viewers. The full recommendations on page 39. The Council is recommended to approve the Principal Electoral Authority's final recommendations for Worth Parish Council as set out at paragraphs 25 to 31 of this report, to make no changes to the governance arrangements for the Parish Council at this time. Would members vote using the microphone touch screen, please?
The result, Chairman, is that there were 30 in favour, 1 against and 13 abstentions, so the motion is carried.
Thank you very much. I understand that Councillor Gibson wishes to leave. No? You're not going to? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm now going to move on to item 13, the recommendations from the Cabinet held on the 26th of September 2022, pages 45 to 46. This item of the agenda is proposed by Councillor Belsey and is seconded by Councillor Ash Edwards. Councillor Belsey.
The other way round, actually.
Chairman, if that's okay. I thought Councillor Gibson, we thought up here was going to be substituted there just for a moment. Chairman, I'm pleased to just formally pose the Budget Management Report recommendations, which are set out in the paper that members have, and in doing so, just to highlight the second paragraph outlining the worsening financial picture for the council as a result of energy costs and inflation feeding through. And obviously we'll keep that under very close review, but I think it is important that we all understand the pressures, not just this council, but right across councils, nationally and other organisations, the pressures that are being seen already on the projects and services that we are providing, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Belsey, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my right, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members wishing to speak, I have Councillor Alison Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question. Noting the rising energy costs, which we're all very mindful of, what efforts and measures has the council put in place to reduce demand, its own energy demand, on its premises and those of partner organisations? Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, good use of energy and efficiency is something that the council has always promoted in its estate, and that's never been more important. And indeed, we have previously installed solar panels on this campus, for example, to try and reduce some of those pressures, and we'll continue on to take those opportunities as they arise, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I have no other questions. I'm going to therefore pass to the seconder of this motion, Councillor Belsey. Do you wish to speak on this?
Thank you, Chairman. Only to echo and support the comments from Councillor Edwards and the challenging financial position. But I think if you actually were to look at the capital programme, for example, in page 6, you would actually see that we've got a lot of really exciting projects that we can look forward to over this and the next financial year. So whilst we must be, very cautious about the financial position, I still think that we can be optimistic for ourselves as a council that we have a lot to bring to support residents of Mid-Sussex over the short and medium term. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. I have no other speakers, so I'm going to move to recommendations. The 4 recommendations are on page 45. I'm going to read them for the benefit of members, viewers and listeners. That Council approve 1, that £150,000 grant income from West Sussex County Council in respect of a payment for Ukraine support to be transferred to specific reserve as detailed in paragraph 27 of the Cabinet report. Item 2, that £20,000 grant income relating to neighbourhood planning be transferred to specific reserve as detailed in paragraph 28 of the Cabinet report. Item 3, that £445 grant income for new burdens relating to council tax submissions be transferred to specific reserve as detailed in paragraph 29 of the Cabinet report. Item 4, that £16,335 grant income relating to housing benefits or ward accuracy initiative be transferred to specific reserves as detailed in paragraph 30 of the Cabinet report. Item 5, that £62,857 grant income from West Sussex County Council relating to employment projects coordinator be transferred to specific reserve as detailed in paragraph 31 of the Cabinet report. And item 6, the variations to the capital programme contained in paragraph 35 of the Cabinet report in accordance with the Council's financial procedure, Rule B3. Members vote, please, by using their touch screen.
That's agreed, Chairman. That's agreed.
That is agreed. Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 14 of your agenda, to receive the Leaders' Report.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And can I begin by just joining you, Chairman, in welcoming Councillor Adams to to the council and to congratulate her on her by-election victory. I know she'll be a fantastic advocate for Balney Ward, and look forward to having her working amongst us in the council. Chairman, if I could also just share apologies from Councillor Demir and Councillor Webster for their absence from the Cabinet table today. They're on pre-arranged leave prior to this meeting being moved to today. Cabinet colleagues have significant updates to share demonstrating the work that the Council has been undertaking over the past months for our community right across the board, and I'll let them do that in their report. And just a few things I wanted to highlight myself, Chairman, if I may. Firstly, on the cost of living, I know Cabinet colleagues will have some further updates, but I know this is an issue that people across our community are concerned about. And I just wanted to reassure members that this council is and will continue to play its part in supporting our local communities in the months ahead. Just as a reminder, this council plays an important role in providing financial support to residents who are in lower incomes or financial difficulty. To date this year, over £18 million of support distributed through the housing and council tax support schemes, as well as an exceptional hardship scheme we run jointly with West Sussex County Council, and indeed our discretionary housing payment scheme as well. There is immediate support with food through the food banks and many other community networks throughout the district, the Belsey Hub, the Burgess Hill Pantry, and many others as well. There is also, I think it's on members' tables, a winter support guide that has been produced by this council to signpost people to further help, and that guide will appear in the November edition of Mid-Sussex Matters. And the council's Community Connections brochure has been updated for this year. It's developed in partnership with organisations that work for and with older people, and it's an easy-to-read, accessible guide on services for older residents, and the Wellbeing team has received over 1,000 copies for requests for hard copies thus far. Chairman, three items where the council has been active in bidding for investment for our district and support for the projects that we want to see moving forward that I wanted to update the council on. Firstly, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. This is a replacement to EU structural funding, for which Mid-Sussex never really benefited. Mid-Sussex's allocation of Shared Prosperity funding will be £1 million over 3 years, largely weighted towards the back end of that time frame. It requires an investment plan, which we have submitted, that has been developed through the Mid-Sussex Partnership Board. The highlights of that investment programme are employability support for young people not in employment, education or training, to support the development of community hubs at the Cherry Tree Centre, Stone Quarry and Balney Cottage in Benswood, to support the rollout of our Parks investment programme and Town Centre events programme as well. And we expect to hear the outcome of that investment plan submission fairly soon, Chairman. I'll also update members when it is known. Secondly, I think members will be aware we have made a second submission to the Levelling Up Fund for Burgess Hill Town Centre. It's an £18.5 million bid to try and unlock the redevelopment of the martlets, to deliver the Church Walk public realm improvements and a digital hub to help develop business workspaces, really leveraging the full fibre gigabit investments we've already made. Our bid continues to score highly in the feedback that we get, and I hope it will be supported by government, and we're expecting the outcome to that in November. And finally, Chairman, I wanted to advise members that in partnership with West Sussex County Council, we will be making an expression of interest to government to create investment zones in 2 sites in Mid-Sussex, the proposed Science and Technology Park and Burgess Hill Town Centre and Martlet Shopping Centre. Investment zones offer long-term incentives to businesses located within them, whilst also ensuring that council's revenues from business rates are protected. This will mean that businesses would be attracted to investment zones to support employment opportunities for local people and wider economic benefit to the area. Chairman, members will, I'm sure, have seen that there has been press coverage saying that investment zones will also involve streamlined planning processes. And clearly that's an aspect that requires very careful scrutiny for a council like ours, given the importance that we have always placed on our local planning policies. But as members will know, both of those sites are very mature in planning terms. The Martlet Shopping Centre has already got a planning permission, and the Science and Technology Park is allocated in the local plan and is currently being master planned. So we have already exerted very strong influence over both of those developments through our planning powers. And clearly in our work to develop the expression of interest and in any negotiations with government, if we are successful, clearly we will want to protect our position in that, consistent with our planning framework. Should the expression of interest be successful, there will clearly be further discussions with government to tailor the details to suit what we need locally. It is anticipated that competition for investment zones will be intense, but I think it's important that we put these sites forward to ensure that we're doing everything we can to secure the investment that we want to see on both of those sites for our local community and economy. And I'd like to thank the officers in this council who have worked at pace, a 14-day expression of interest window from government, and there has been work at real pace to deliver this expression of interest. So I thank officers for that, and indeed thank the County Council for their support in that process as well. Happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Members, so that all who wish to do so have adequate opportunity to pose a question, and please, not a statement. I ask for your cooperation in putting no more than 3 questions per member to the leader and in respect of the Cabinet members' reports. So does anyone have a question? So I have one for the leader from Councillor Henwood.
Oh, thank you. I'm rather dismayed because I've seen quite a bit of waste of placing connectivity money in redoing some of their footpaths. So is the leader actually saying there is no money to actually pursue Church Walk, Burgess Hill Church Walk realm improvements, which actually the citizens probably required more than some of the other work which has been going on? Thank you.
Councillor Ash-Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. It's always been the case that there have been projects identified through the Place and Connectivity Programme for which exceed the amount of funding available. That's always been the case, and the Church Walk programme has been one of those, which is why we have been bidding through the Levelling Up Fund for the additional funding that would help unlock that. But what I would just simply say to Councillor Henwood is don't be dismayed. The Place and Connectivity Programme is great. It has opened up brilliant new cycling, walking routes in and around Burgess Hill. It's a really important programme to improve sustainable transport, and I think that if we can get the next part of that delivered through this bid, we'll be able to do even more. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ash-Edwards. Councillor Alison Bennett, please.
Thank you, Chairman. 2 points, if I may, Chairman. Firstly, on cost of living, we really welcome this being put out. I know from my colleagues on the County Council it was something that they've been trying to progress and haven't been able to progress so far, so it's great that it's happening in the district. The only thing that occurs to me on the back of that is whether our food banks and pantries are adequately stocked to keep up with rising demand this winter. That is a very real concern I'm hearing from those organisations at the moment. And what can we as a district council do? That's point 1. Point 2, investment zones. Wow, expressions of interest going on 2 areas in Burgess Hill. When so little's known about what the investment zones will actually mean, I find it hugely concerning at this point. That's my initial reaction, to be honest with you. I understand that habitats regulations aren't going to be applied in investment zones. I understand that the process for proper placemaking is meant to be bypassed. There are loud voices very worried about what the investment zones are going to mean for nature, for placemaking, for planning. I would urge you to proceed with caution, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. I'm going to move on to Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have got a question, but if you just permit me, because I just wanted to thank the leader for giving me the heads up about the investment zone in advance of the meeting, which I really appreciated. And as the leader knows, I've always been supportive of the council's bid for monies from central government for investment in town centre of Burgess Hill. And I'd just like to wish again for the second time you all success with that. On the investment zones, yes, I think it's fair to share some of the caution around it. Would it be possible to just expand a bit on what the investment zones provide, both in terms of delivery into the business community and whether it has a broader reach into, for example, the public realm as well? Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll try and deal with Councillor Bennett and Councillor Eggleston's points combined, if I may. On Councillor Bennett's point around food banks, the Council is in regular touch, as we are with all our community groups, with food banks. And of course, there are opportunities for any of those concerns to be brought forward. And as a Council, we will always do what we can to support community and voluntary sector organisations in our district. And indeed, we do that through our grants programme. I know it's something that we will keep very closely under review to see if there's anything further we can do to support through the autumn and winter. On investment zones, I think what's really going to be really important on this is that we're led by the evidence and led by the facts rather than by the letters page of the garden. And certainly it's the case that the government has signalled a desire to streamline some of the processes, but what we're talking about on these sites are very tightly defined sites that already have planning support from this council. We are not talking about picking unknown sites out of thin air. This is about accelerating the delivery and making more attractive to businesses sites that this council has already given planning support to. And clearly, we will, as the details emerge, we will consider very carefully at every stage, as we always do with these kinds of projects, whether they are going in the right direction, delivering what we need. And of course, if we find that they're not, then we'll not pursue it any further. But I think it is right to be at the table and to try and seek an opportunity to accelerate the delivery of projects that people in our district want to see. And I think Councillor Eggleston's point in terms of what does that provide? I think really importantly, there are some important tax incentives for businesses locating in investment zones, and the exact detail to be negotiated and to be worked through. But from what we've seen so far from government, we think it will make both locations more attractive to retailers in town centre, to businesses at the Science and Technology Park in a way that protects this council's revenue position, but does provide a competitive edge to those sites that we want to see delivered. And so we will, of course, be very careful as we go forward as we do with all of these projects. But I think it would be absolutely wrong to not seek the opportunity and not seek to put forward these sites within government. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I just wanted to highlight a couple of points that lie at the base of these investment zones, which essentially, regardless of the sites, are to reduce planning controls and reduce environmental restrictions and regulations. Now, I know what you're saying about we are yet to see the full evidence and full details of that, but that fundamentally goes against what we as a council are trying to do with our sustainability and environmental policy. If we are relaxing any of those things, specifically the environmental restrictions, that is a disaster for the future of our towns, not just in Burgess Hill, but wherever these the investment zones are proposed. So again, as others have said, I would really approach with real caution. Yes, it's good to be at the table, but we do not want any reduction in environmental restrictions or regulations with any of these policies. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. Could the leader just explain if there's any overlap between the County Council growth deal for Mid Sussex and the bid into the Levelling Up Fund? And just give us an update where we are on the growth deal.
Councillor Asheboots.
Thanks, Chairman. I'll try and deal with both points at the same time,
Thank
if I may. Firstly, I disagree. I understand Councillor Cornish's point, but I just disagree that it is a disaster to try and seek more investment into our district, to grow our economy and to deliver on regeneration in our town centres. I just disagree with that first approach in terms of looking at things. And I think we need to be, again, really careful about what we're talking about. Burgess Hill Town Centre, we are talking about a brownfield site that has planning permission. It is not a habitat-rich environment, if I'm being really honest, and it is not an area where there is significant scope to change the planning environment. What is important is seeking opportunities to make it a more attractive place for investment in order to deliver the regeneration that we want to see. And in relation to Councillor Gibson's question on the growth deal remains in place, and the wider growth and infrastructure programme is being delivered as part of that, and the County Council is an important partner, particularly in terms of delivering the A2300 corridor improvements that we've seen, placing connectivity programme as well. And I welcome the County Council's support that's been provided to the investment zone bid, and I thank Councillor Paul Marshall, the leader there, for the very constructive engagement he's provided in the last week or so. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Asheboots. Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chairman. As I wasn't informed of this before the meeting, I'd be grateful if the leader would give us a map of exactly where these investment zones might occur. Can he guarantee that you won't be throwing out all planning rules? Can he guarantee that he won't be throwing out biodiversity net gain rules for the new science park? Can he guarantee, I would almost say, can he guarantee that he's going to ditch the requirement for affordable housing, but that's already been done regarding New River in Burgess Hill Town Centre? Can he guarantee that he won't just slash all the standards and that this isn't just another whip round for New River?
Councillor Asheboots.
Chairman, I think once again we have to ask the question, do Burgess Hill members want to see investment in the town centre or not? Because it's not always clear. It's not always clear. And let me be really clear, this Conservative administration will do everything it can to deliver town centre regeneration in Burgess Hill. And indeed, I thank Councillor Eggleston for his constructive approach to that earlier. What I'd just say is that we're not talking here, as I said, we're not talking about sites that have no planning history. We're talking, in the case of Burgess Hill Town Centre, of a site that has a planning permission given by this council. Science and Technology Park is a site allocated in the local plan. They are very mature from a planning perspective, and so we are not talking about starting an investment zone from the perspective of nothing being established in planning terms. And I think it's just completely wrong to talk in those terms about just throwing out all planning rules, because we have already established a planning framework for both sites. And as I've said, if we get to a position of being selected by government to take the expression of interest forward and into negotiations, we'll take a very strong position on the points we need to protect, and if it doesn't work for us, we'll say so and deal with it accordingly. In relation to maps and boundaries, as I've said, we're talking about the boundaries of the existing sites, and so I'd refer members to the red line of the planning permission in the town centre and the red line allocation of the Science and Technology Park in the site allocations DPD. Those are the existing known sites, and there'll be no change for that. In relation to housing, let me just be really clear that these are commercial bids from the investment zone. They are not housing-related bids.
Thank you, Councillor Asheboots. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask the leader, thank you first for the winter support guide, and I hear the information about food banks, which we're lucky to have a fairly consistent provision across the district. But I just wonder, in terms of warm hubs, which have been developed in many areas of the council, in many areas of the country, and whether the council could, whether he could look to see if the council could be more proactive in supporting their provision across the district, as certainly in Burgess Hill we're formulating policies to try to take those forward, I'm sure in other areas. And also in terms of fuel banks relating particularly to support to people that are on electric gas meters, who therefore don't have a standing order that gives them, pays the same each month. They have huge increases in bills over the winter period, and therefore may be disconnecting. And I'm pleased to see that we have one in East Grinstead. But again, it would be good if the council could support, coordinate, but also support financially the provision more consistently across the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hicks, for that question. I understand the point that he's making. I think Councillor Henwood has a question on this later in the meeting, so I'm going to not steal Councillor Henwood and Councillor Belsey's response, and I'll leave it to them if that's okay. But I understand the point Councillor Hicks is making.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish, you have already spoken. Is this a brief question?
Just to clarify the point that...
If you make it, if we could keep it brief.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Ash-Edwards, what I was saying was that a reduction in planning controls and a reduction in environmental restrictions would be a disaster, not an investment zone in Burgess Hill. We are for investment in Burgess Hill. We are not for reduced planning controls or reduced environmental restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. The last member I have to speak is Councillor Cartwright.
I thank the leader for this initiative which has been made for Burgess Hill. If we can get some money for our town centre, that will be a fantastic thing. And it's been an impasse we've got into. The town centre is in a pretty dire state at the moment because it hasn't had the investment which we were promised initially from New River. And if this is a way for getting the money in and getting the ball rolling, good for you.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. Do you wish to come back on that?
Councillor Cartwright for his very constructive point. Thank you. I agree. And I think we must, I think on the town centre, what we've got to remember is we've got a stalled private sector scheme. We've got an incredibly difficult economic environment for such schemes. And we need to pull every single lever we can find to try and help unlock that. And that's what I'm committed to do. That's what, as a council, we're committed to do. And I think we must speak with one voice on that to make clear that this is a priority for us and that we'll do everything that we can to get that investment, get things unblocked and get things moving. But I thank Councillor Cartwright for his constructive approach.
Thank you. Finally, we have Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. As one who doesn't live in Burgess Hill, I would like to think the people who live in Hurst Pierpoint welcome the potential investment in the science park because it's going to benefit the whole district, not just Burgess Hill. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to now move on to the Deputy Leader, Councillor John Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. A few points to cover. Firstly, I'd like to thank all residents who are taking part in the food waste trial, which started last month. Participation is very high, at over 80%, and I understand that over 20 tonnes, or well over 20 tonnes of food waste were collected in the first 3 weeks. We will be collecting feedback once the trial's been going for a month. Personally, I've had individual feedback, and I'm sure local ward councillors have had the same. Feedback's been mostly positive to me individually. A top tip seems to be to use compostable bags to help keep the bins cleaner and keep the flies out, etc. But it seems to be going very well. Thank you very much to the officer teams who were out in that first week, making sure everyone had their bins and they were out on the collection vehicles and speaking with residents as and when queries occurred. Thank you to the residents. As I said, I understand the Facebook group for people on the trial has over 100 households participating and sharing tips with each other. So again, it's much welcome. I look forward to more detailed feedback on the trials going, and I know a member briefing will also follow on the trial in due course. In terms of garden waste, as Councillor aware from previous discussions and from members' questions as well, that we know there's been a lengthening queue of households waiting for a green bin. Just to say that following discussions with officers, the business case is being worked up for an additional collection vehicle, and this will be considered as part of the budget process over this winter, with a view to expanding the green waste scheme early in the next financial year, which will of course be very timely for the new gardening season. So we will be following that up in the budgetary process. And then the third matter I want to mention is the Centre for Outdoor Sports. Over the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to meet with our officers and consultant, along with certain sports clubs based in and around Burgess Hill. Proposals are still being worked up for the facilities, but I'm in no doubt that the Centre for Outdoor Sports will be a very exciting and important addition to the sports facilities of Burgess Hill. Not just as a first-class sporting venue, but through allowing existing clubs to ease their pressure on their current sporting facilities by having alternative, high-quality venues for training, for junior and other matches, and of course, potentially in many cases for club matches too. I look forward to seeing the proposals for the site being worked up, and of course they will be discussed more at Council. But I'd like to say that included in the meetings were meetings with both the Haywards Heath and Burgess Hill athletics and running clubs. And at this time, it's not anticipated that a standard athletics track will be included within those proposals drawn up. The running clubs are fully aware of this, and we are setting up further meetings with them, officers and England Athletics to discuss the future for athletics provision in our district. But we're also in the process of writing to clubs that we've not yet met to ask them to complete a survey on their needs to feed into our proposals, and I look forward to their feedback too. As I said, the Centre of Outdoor Sports will be a vital addition to the sports facilities in a wider district, not just for Burgess Hill. And alongside this exciting project, we also recognise the need to support existing club venues and club ambitions where appropriate to do so, both in Burgess Hill and across the district. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. I have a question from Councillor Bradbury.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you for that helpful update. And just before I get on to my question, can I thank the Cabinet Member for the update on the food waste pilot, which I think we all in this chamber wish success to. But my question is in relation to the Centre for Outdoor Sports. The Cabinet Member will know I'm very disappointed at the failure to include a hard surface running track in this provision. There isn't one anywhere in mid-Sussex, never has been, and that seems to me to be a notable omission from what otherwise is a pretty good support from this council for a wide range of sports. So if I could just ask him to continue, if we're not going to have a hard surface running track at the Centre for Outdoor Sports, then let's work up a scheme whereby we can find a way to have one somewhere in the district.
Thank you. Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I didn't say too much because I don't want to prejudge what the meeting will be with England Athletics, for example, but I take on board Councillor Bradbury's points, which were well made, and I note, and I think England Athletics have noted in discussions with officers, that apart from 400-metre running tracks, there could be more compact facilities, there are opportunities for throwing facilities, other facilities that might work better in a school setting, etc. And we will consider all those. We will also be looking at whether there can be a shared cycling and running space around the Centre for Outdoor Sports, and I know that will be costed, which will at least allow timed or measured kilometre running, etc. But we are looking at that. It's just a question of trying to consider all the pressures and opportunities and coming up with something that fits as many of those as possible within the economic environment as well, which we're operating. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Henwood.
Thank you. Good news about the food waste. Now, if it becomes a success and it's extended outwards, what plans are there to provide a local biodigester so it doesn't have to be transported all the way to a long way away? Thank you.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Henwood. As you know, we haven't yet got the future finalised plans for what happens post-rollout, and we will be looking at alternative options at the end, or, you know, once the trial is proven, you know, once we've determined whether the trial's a success and where we want to go from there. And I have asked officers to work up the potential for a local facility within Mid-Sussex, as well as the other wider facilities. So we will at least be able to compare that in the mix of potential solutions.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I thank the portfolio holder, Deputy Leader, for the timely answer to the question I asked him regarding Peas Pottage. Can I ask that a comprehensive comms deal is set up, because there's a few people up in these Peas Pottage do need to know exactly, and a timely booking of the room, if you're going to have it in the room, and I'd look to see you there a couple of Mondays' time. Thank you.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say, obviously, Councillor Marsh is referring to the progression of the park improvements at Helms Meadow, and we are engaging with the very detailed consultation now for the finalisation of the plans before spades go in the grounds, and I share the enthusiasm of Councillor Marsh for seeing those happen in the near future.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. 1 point and 2 questions. Good news on the green bins. My residents have been waiting a long time, so I'm pleased to hear about that. On the food waste, it's good to hear about the food itself. Can we hear some more about the other aspects of it? There's been no change to the recycling bin, but is anybody starting to complain about the landfill bin? Are you getting requests to have a second landfill bin, and will those be issued? But most importantly, the young girls of Crawley Down cannot play football games on the King George playing field because there is no toilet. Could that be addressed, please, with just a portaloo or similar? And that will encourage the FA then to accredit the games. Thank you.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Gibson. A canter through a various number of items. In terms of food waste, personally, I've not had any. I had scepticism in advance that people would be coming to me asking for additional bins, but I've not had anyone directly approach me, and we'll make sure that we pick up those questions up in the feedback and in the member briefing. And I'm aware of the issue with King George's Field, and I know you had a response today from an officer, which you wouldn't have been happy with, because there are some fields at the moment where we do not have toilet facilities on all of our playing pitches. So I will pick that back up with the officers, and we will look at that in the context of the playing pitch strategy and priority. I won't make a rash promise, but I will make sure that we look at it again.
Thank you. Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to agree with Councillor Bradbury, possibly for the first time ever, regarding the terrible situation with this running track. There isn't one in the whole district. Burgess Hill runners have to go to Lewis on their track night. This really is poor when it's a new facility that's being built. So I would ask you to reconsider. And I've been lobbied about a velodrome as well. Nothing as glorious, of course, as Stratford, but there are smaller versions of velodromes. Have you reached a decision on that? And is it what I think it is? Thank you.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. So I don't want to, again, second guess the finalised proposals, which will take into account the feedback from all the clubs, many of whom are very excited by the proposals for the Centre for Outdoor Sports. The cricket club, rugby club, football clubs, we're approaching netball clubs, the hockey club. Honestly, there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. Simply, if we had an athletics track on the site, either we would lose the 2 premier pitches, of which the whole predication of the Centre for Outdoor Sports is based, or we lose all the junior pitches. We can't have all 3 things. We can't have the junior pitches, the first class pitches, and the athletics track. So we've just got to decide on priority. And I know from discussions with England Athletics, I note that there is no athletics track within Mid-Sussex, but we have got 4 tracks broadly within half an hour of each other at Horsham, Crawley, Lewis and Falmer. And I think actually, if you speak to England Athletics, my understanding is they're actually concerned to have a fifth track because those first 4 tracks aren't fully utilised anyway, and we will end up sucking the visits and attendances from those other 4 tracks into our track in mid-Sussex, and those will be, which have already got very high maintenance costs, will end up either having to close or be suspended. So it might be a discussion that we could pick up for a wider time, but it is a little bit more complex than just saying we need an athletics track in mid-Sussex without the wider implications. And I said at this stage, I'm not sure, and I would be happy to feedback, but I'm not sure England Athletics will even recommend a running track in mid-Sussex themselves when we have the meeting with the local running clubs. So please do that, bear that in mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. You will note that we have 2 Cabinet members that have offered their apologies this evening. The Cabinet Member for Leisure and Parking, Councillor Demir, and the Cabinet Member for Community, Councillor Webster, have both given their apologies. So I am now going to move on to the Cabinet Members that we have here, one of which is Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Net Zero, Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got a number of updates which I'll provide by way of succinct bullets, if I may. First of all, the micro business grant scheme, which is totaling £71,000 was launched back in April, and currently 27,300 has been allocated. So I'd encourage all members to promote it to their local businesses, and details can be found on the business and licensing page of the Mid-Sussex District Council website. Recently, our economy team has provided financial and or other support for the Burgess Hill Science Week and the Haywards Heath STEM, both of which excellent events, and that is obviously pursuant to our Sustainable Economic Strategy Action Plan. Also relating to that strategy, excellent low-carbon videos have been released in conjunction with West Sussex County Council, and I'll ask whether the link can go out via MIS in the future so that members can have a look at them. They have been very well received and aimed chiefly at businesses. In the past, I've told members about the preparation of the Opportunity Mid-Sussex Inward Investment Promotion Materials, and these have been completed and I and others believe make a compelling case for bringing further economic activity to our district. A very successful launch was held in London on the 7th of September. Almost 50 targeted guests attended to hear from some notable speakers and also network with cabinet colleagues and officers, and it really has put Mid-Sussex high up the kind of agenda in terms of places to come to invest in, and the fact that we have so many of our policies and stuff in line, ready to receive such investment. There's going to be a local launch, joint launch for the Opportunity Mid-Sussex and Sustainable Economic Strategy at Edwards Vacuum in Burgess Hill, and that's been rescheduled for the 17th of November following the sad passing of Her Majesty. One of the key attractions that we highlight in our OMS, which is brief, I'm going to use those letters for the strategy, is our excellent gigabit connectivity programme, and I can tell members that this continues to go extremely well and on target, both time and cost-wise, which is a considerable achievement in the current climate. I hope members agree, and congratulations to all officers concerned. The economy team have continued their excellent business engagement via the quarterly newsletter and with the 3 business associations, and particularly around providing support for businesses through the university's Rise and Hothouse programmes, and also about grants. Further support is going to be planned in the coming months around digital adoption strategies and skills. The also previously trailed shop Appy app has already successfully launched in Burgess Hill, taking in Sussex and Hurst Pierpoint, and Haywards Heath, taking in Cookfield and Linfield, and will be launched in East Grinstead for them and surrounding areas next week. So those that remember this app will allow local businesses to promote their products or services online so that residents can access the information and either purchase online or make their way to the provider. Finally, and in relation to the Burgess Hill Growth Programme, I've been delighted to recently hear that an employment and skills plan has been prepared with Homes England with regards to the Brookley development, and this is about providing opportunities for local people through jobs training and particularly apprenticeships, which we know are going to be sorely needed in the near future. And Chairman, if I can make a cheeky ask, if any members don't wish to take this home, could I have their copies, please, because I can use them at the Benswood Hub. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no questions for Councillor Hillier. I have one. Councillor Hicks.
Just in terms of full fibre, the capacity and its commercial rollout, could the Cabinet members say a bit more about the timescale for that and when we might see widespread commercial use of the full fibre? Thank you.
Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, certainly. Thank you for the question. Yeah, the fibre's all in the ground and it's currently undergoing testing. That will finish within the next couple of weeks. There is a website, I think it's digitalmidsussex.co.uk. That is up and running through the newsletter I've obviously mentioned, through the business associations and also the growing database. That is being promoted to all businesses, so all businesses can, particularly in Burgess Hill, can register their interest on that site, and we would hope to start connections. It's going to depend, to be honest, on the size of the business and how many businesses are clustered in an area. So if you've got very high intensity users, or you've got a number of businesses in one area, then they're probably going to start being connected in Q1 next year. If they're further spread out, it's probably going to move towards Q3. And this is just economics. It's going to be the companies doing the connections, obviously going to go to the high value ones first because they need to start earning some income. So hopefully that answers your question.
Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, I know the Cabinet member has had the benefit of the same carbon literacy training that I've had, and I just wonder if it's changed its conclusions on how Scope 3 emissions, those are emissions which are not under our direct control, but might be related to decisions that this council make.
Councillor Hillier.
It's a very good question, actually, one I can't answer. Probably one I'd need to chew over a beer with you in a pub, to be quite frank. It's a good point, well made. It's really complex, the whole carbon net zero, and we're still getting guidance from government about what we need to include as a district council in terms of our own emissions and what goes as county-wide, district-wide. It's a good challenge, and I'm not going to flannel anymore, and just thank you for the question.
Thank you. I'm now going to move on to the Cabinet Member for Housing and Customer Services, Councillor Cromie.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, a bit of a meaty one for me, so I'll whiz through it as quickly as I can. The Revenue and Benefits team have been working doubly hard to run the department as well as administer the grants being handed down from central government. The team are working really hard in unprecedented times. The deadline for the energy rebate grant was the 30th of September, and the council have now paid just under £6 million to nearly 40,000 recipients without needing the extension. We've paid over £3 million from the COVID Additional Relief Fund. The local discretionary scheme closes on the 30th of November. This allows us to help specific residents who are outside the main scheme's criteria but meet the threshold for additional support. We've currently paid £57,150 out of a total of £200,550. We are reviewing this scheme to look at further adaptations to maximise the take-up. The council have now paid just under £50 million over 7,517 COVID business grants and have paid £3.4 million from the COVID Additional Relief Fund. As you may know, Kevin Stewart is leaving us on the 31st of October for his much-deserved retirement. Kevin's been a rock for the council during the COVID pandemic and in successfully rolling out the COVID grants and now more recently the energy rebate awards. His passion for his area of expertise is second to none, and he's brought energy and enthusiasm to his role, along with a genuine compassion and pride for his team. I personally will remember Kevin for his friendliness as a new councillor to Mid-Sussex and the time he would willingly give to explain and advise, and I really wish him well in his retirement. Moving on to comms, the comms team have been working to promote the many initiatives and incentives that the council are running, and the summer edition of Mid-Sussex Matters is in the final stages of completion and is due to land on doorsteps the week commencing the 21st of November. Moving on to housing. So we're reducing the number of residents in temporary accommodation by improving our procedures and making timely decisions. In August, we had 83 households in temporary accommodation, whereas we had 128 in December last year. However, we're acutely aware of the need for a contingency plan and have acquired 25 properties to date to use as temporary accommodation, with 6 more coming along in the pipeline. 5 of these units have been designed for single vulnerable people with complex needs. We've had a successful bid for the Rough Seekers accommodation funding, and the Brighton Housing Trust Sussex have bought flats in Haywards Heath. Flat 1 to 4 already in occupation, and nominations have been received for flat 2 and 4. The Trust have funded to provide support for 6 people and 2 additional units, 1-bedroom flat in Haywards Heath and 1-bed house in Burgess Hill, and they'll be made available to us by Clarion. Both units will be passed by their contractors, so they'll be ready to let soon. The objective of the council is to intervene and support early in the process to prevent homelessness. And we've expanded our intervention and prevention team to provide support where it's needed the most. As of the end of August, we have awarded 149 discretionary housing payments, committing £82,690 to some of our most vulnerable residents, providing them with reassurance and protection. We're working with the other district councils across West Sussex to utilise the £9,203 award for the Domestic Abuse Act to maximise the impact of that funding to helping those residents who are suffering from domestic abuse in Mid-Sussex. The Homelessness Prevention Grant awarded for this current financial year is £432,728, and the spending will focus on preventing homelessness, contributing to the ending of rough sleepers, and to reduce family temporary accommodation numbers, and to minimise the use of unsuitable B&Bs for families. In addition to this, it was announced in October that the council would receive an additional £90,733 this financial year to top up the Homeless Prevention Grant and to provide a one-off payment to support low-income households in private accommodation who have COVID-related arrears to avoid them to be evicted or to find a new home to prevent homelessness. 42 households in the last year were helped with the removal and household start-up costs. We're committed to preventing homelessness, and at the end of August, 7 rough sleepers or people at risk of rough sleeping were accommodated under the discretionary COVID powers. We've spent £282,124 on helping those people who fell into the everyone in group. However, we understand that the support is also needed for those who are currently still living on the streets. And in August, a new mobile hub was launched, and a converted double-deck bus will allow turning tides to connect directly with the hidden homeless. The bus will be visiting the following car parks weekly: so Chequers Mead in East Grinstead, Franklin's Road in Haywards Heath, Cypress Road in Burgess Hill, and Orion car park in Sussex. There's a flyer that I'm happy to circulate should any member want it, and please look out for this on social media and share where you can. Our joint bid to secure funding to provide the Rough Sleepers Outreach Service, Housing First and Turning Tide support was successful, and we're awarded funding for our Off the Street offer, which is split equally between Mid-Sussex and Horsham. This is to reduce the reliance of bed and breakfast accommodation and to provide off-the-street accommodation for verified rough sleepers from 2023. We've identified one self-contained unit as an off-the-street offer, and the funding will cover the associated costs of this particular property. Finally, I'm pleased to inform you that the West Sussex County Council has confirmed that the Local Assistant Network Award will support Fernie Help by granting £7,500, and that was the same amount that we granted last year. £6,875 will go to the Haywards Heath Food Bank, which is an increase of £1,375 on last year. The East Grinstead Food Bank will also get £6,875, which is again an increase of £1,375. And the Children and Family Centres will again receive £35,000 for the whole county. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cromie. Councillor Henwood.
Oh, thank you very much for a very comprehensive comprehensive report, lots of figures. I'm pleased to hear the council are contributing funding towards food banks. I'm curious about the double-decker bus, which is run by Turning Tide. How do rough sleepers know about it?
Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. So the initiative was just launched in August. Turning Tides already have a huge support scheme. So most of the rough sleepers they're aware of, they're already offering support on the ground. The point of the double-decker bus is to provide some respite, to allow them to get clean, to have a rest. And also from that, there's going to be a lot of support coming so they can get advice. Rather than it being distributed on the street, there's going to be a base there. But everybody in this room can help with distributing that message by getting it out on social media.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Stockwell.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Cromie, because that was a very comprehensive report. I just wondered if you are able to, or figures are available, how many of your rough sleepers have been in our armed forces? There's an awful lot of rough sleepers, and also the number of people that we're helping become homeless through whatever reason. How many of these people have an armed forces connection? It would be very useful and help our policies in dealing with some of this as well. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cromie, are you able to provide that reply, or do you do it in writing?
I can. Sorry, I don't have the information to hand, but I do understand the importance of the question, so thank you. I will take that back to the team, and we will also liaise with Turning Tides to see if that is a criteria that we're currently meeting, and if not, if we can find that information out moving forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to thank Councillor Cromie for a stunningly brilliant report, incredible facts and figures. Just wondered if the text of that could be circulated by email, because I think that contains so much information. A lot of it, many members probably weren't aware of, so thank you very much.
Councillor Cromie.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much again for your report. We're going to be moving on to the last Cabinet member we have with us this evening, the Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Salisbury.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll be brief. I say that because out with of any comments made tonight, I've noticed at meetings that by starting off by saying just a quick comment or I'll be brief, it gives the speaker an unlimited length of time to be able to talk to people. I'm going to focus tonight on development management because it's an area which I'm sure, without necessarily articulating it, you do really want to know about because it carries on without very many people seeing the numbers. And the numbers are impressive. Just recently, our development management team were noted to be in the top 10 of the planning applications based on stats in terms of turning planning applications round. In the top 10 means in the top 18 of the 181 district councils in this country, which I think goes to show the level of performance that we have. Of the major schemes determined within 13 weeks, you'll remember that small applications are 8 weeks, majors 13 weeks. 90% as an average have been turned around within that time, as have the number of minor schemes, which is an 8-week target. In fact, it's even better than that because just recently the current rate is 100% on both majors, not so much on minors, 99% on minors. So the teams are working really hard, even though you'll notice that they have a mixed tenure in this building. They are up on the planning floor, but a lot of them are working from home as well. And you can see that the performance hasn't dropped because of that. One of the things that we're always talking about is appeals. And I'm pleased to report that in 21-22, 35 applications that were refused went to appeal. This year it's 15. Now that's not just a statistical blip. That's happened because of the training that we've done with our committees, who are now making better decisions, and it's the effectiveness of our teams who are really working to ensure the evidence base for refusals is very well articulated. And that has brought the number of appeals down. People are thinking twice before they appeal. The number of applications that we've had have gone from 2020, 1,178, this year 1,230, and we're not at the end of the year yet, are we? And I can tell you that the budget for the applications, which was just over £500,000, it's 541,231, and at the moment we are 21% above the projected budget. So you can see that the applications are bringing in good sums of money for this council. Those who get complaints from residents about enforcement actions that are not pursued, I can tell you that on average, in the top 90 percentile of enforcement complaints are started action on within 10 days. And in fact, in September, it was 97% of complaints that came in were acted on within that 10 days. And now I'm going to read to you, because I think this is really important. Moving away from development management, I have on occasions been heard to expand the importance of having a 5-year land supply and how important it is that this district has a plan. And many of you, in fact I think all of you, will have received emails suggesting that we don't need to do this. So one of our neighbouring councils has just had a little problem, and it's because they're not in that position. Inspector brands a council the epitome of unreasonable behaviour over the refusal of a 700-home scheme. A planning inspector has allowed an appeal for 700 homes and awarded full costs against an East Sussex council after concluding that the local authority's conduct in the case was the epitome of unreasonable behaviour. An appeal against the decision of Wealdon Council to refuse an application for the homes on an allocated site. Alongside the homes, the 700 homes, the application proposed 8,600 square metres of employment space, a medical centre, school, community centre, blah, 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 allotments and so on. Members of the Council's Planning Committee refused the application on highways and transport issues, together with concerns about the location of the site and effects of development change. There's a lot more of this. I won't bore you with it. You can read it for yourself because it's a publication. The Council was seen to have failed to produce evidence to substantiate each reason for refusal on appeal, instead making vague, generalised and inaccurate assertions about the proposal's impact, unsupported by any objective analysis. I'm reading those words out because what I want to emphasise is that is the very approach we take in this council, and I've said it so many times, and I just hope everybody's listening. We are not vague, we are not generalised, and we're not inaccurate. We work on an evidence-based scheme all the time. The inspector found against the council in a 200-home application appeal. This is another one, this is a separate inspector. In awarding costs, he said that the council's case lacked detailed objective analysis, and so on. As councillors, says the leader of that council, we listened to the residents' views and voted with our hearts. We believed it was the right thing to do. So all I can say, councillors, is there's a very, very important lesson as we approach the district plan going forward. And I keep saying we are working on an evidence-based process. And if we don't do it and we don't retain a 5-year housing land supply, that is what will happen to us. So I just encourage you to consider that. And in terms of the costs for that council, well, we don't know them yet, but it's certainly tens of thousands of pounds, if not in the hundreds. I seem to remember Tandridge, was that over £100,000 when they were in a similar position? We don't want to be there. We need to stay there. So thank you, councillors, and I'll take any questions.
I have no questions. So, Mr Gibbs, Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. I can't resist the 5-year housing land supply, Chairman. Can I just ask, right, because I took a look, I live on the borders of Wealdon, and I went to a meeting in Hartfield recently and listened to the views of residents over there just to find out really what was their experience from that side compared to my experience the other side in East Grinstead and Felbridge and all the things that have gone in there. One of the things I noticed was that their 3-year delivery is running at 82%, which I guess is going to give them some problems when they do actually start to get their plan together in terms of the hit they're going to take. But I noticed that ours, the last time when it was done, is running at 125%. We are running hot on the delivery of new dwellings from this district. And I just wonder, does that mean we are burning through the 5-year land supply? For the simple reason that the ones that 125% says we are delivering properties early. So that is, and it's 500 houses, have they come out of the 5-year land supply? And does that mean that we'll end up with an interesting problem that we're massively delivering houses, but we've got no 5-year housing land supply? Thank you.
Councillor Salisbury.
Yes, no, it doesn't. The additional housing that you build, we're measured, of course, over in arrears, and you can count that housing towards the 5-year housing land supply. It doesn't come out of it. You shake your head every time you ask a question, councillor, and I give you the answer, you shake your head. We have a difference of understanding, that's all I can say.
Thank you. I'm now going to move on to item 16 on the agenda, questions from members pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2. There is a maximum in total of 30 minutes allocated for this agenda item. I understand that 3 questions have been received. The first question from Councillor Henwood. Has this been... It's a question to Councillor Belsey, I understand, or has this been covered?
Okay, it's to Councillor Bell. Thank you very much. Councillor Hicks mentioned the concept of hubs, of warm hubs, and basically community buildings which are kept warm.
Point of order. Can I ask the members to actually use the microphone so I can hear?
Okay, that means I can't stand up very tall. It's an inelegant position.
We'll pick your voice up.
Very inelegant position. All right, this is about community hubs, about community buildings which are...
Councillor Henwood, please sit.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, community hubs, community buildings which will be kept warm for folks who perhaps can't afford to heat their houses, called community hubs. So I wondered what the Mid-Sussex District Council might be doing to support, to advertise, to coordinate any such community buildings within the district.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think we've already heard from the leader in terms of how the government support and some of the winter support guide, etc., are being rolled out in Mid-Sussex. In terms of warm hubs themselves, I would say that the position seems to be still developing and emerging, Councillor Henwood. West Sussex County Council, on behalf of all the districts and boroughs in the county, are coordinating the response on warm hubs. And currently this council is working closely with West Sussex to identify buildings that we own that might be able to be used as warm hubs. And likewise, I'm aware that many parish and town councils are doing similar and also looking at what grants they might be able to offer to other organisations who are also keen to offer their support. So if it provides some reassurance, as a council, we will offer what support we can as the position develops, and we will ensure that such hubs are publicised within Mid-Sussex. Thank you.
Councillor Henwood, do you wish to come back?
Yes, please.
Do so.
I'm wondering if you do identify such as district council buildings, what kind of funding might be available, or would you be considering supporting and funding such community buildings? Thank you.
Councillor Belsey, you may either give a verbal reply or in writing.
I would like to give a verbal reply, but I think in this one, as the position is still developing, that it might be better to provide a reply as the position is clearer.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. I'm now moving on to to question 2 from Councillor Gary Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question to the leader. Could the leader of the council clarify the cost to the taxpayer of Councillor Egerton's letter before action challenging the sites allocation DPD and the extraordinary meeting of the council on the 10th of August, including the cost of the additional meeting, legal advice and officer time? Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Ash-Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Officers have calculated the total cost to the taxpayer as being £11,761. This includes officers' time, barrister's opinion, and the costs of holding the extraordinary meeting of the council itself. And this is clearly regrettable, Chairman.
Councillor Marsh, do you wish to make a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to question 3 from Councillor Alison Bennett. Has your question been already covered in the leader's report, or? Okay, please ask your question then.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at the Cabinet papers for Monday, when you will consider the final consultant's report for Clare Hall, please can you explain whether you intend to engage a single broker or agent to pursue both Model 1, refurbishment, and Model 3, cultural and other provision via redevelopment, or whether you intend to run 2 separate processes in parallel with 2 independent third parties, as suggested in the BOP report, and given that over £145,000 has been spent by this council since your botched attempt to close it in August 2020.
Councillor Ash-Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Bennett will appreciate the subject of the question is a matter for Cabinet to discuss and decide at the meeting on Monday. It's important that I don't prejudge that. The proposal is to commission specialist help to further pursue the recommended models. How and when both models would be taken forward is a matter for further work and external expert advice, and this would be the focus of the next phase of the work, subject to Cabinet agreeing to the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Ash-Edwards. Councillor Bennett, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
I do, Chairman.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Reading the policy context on page 14, paragraphs 46 to 50 of the Cabinet report on Clare Hall, it is clear that the decision by Cabinet to close Clare Hall in August 2020 was counter to policy DP24 of the district plan, the Haywards Heath neighbourhood plan, and the Haywards Heath town centre master plan. The thrust of DP4 is that cultural facilities should not be lost until a replacement has been secured. If Clare Hall remains closed, the facility will be lost, and the BOP report makes it clear that, in the current economic climate, a replacement is very much not in the bag. Why have neither the Cabinet, nor the steering group, nor their consultants talked to the Clare Hall users who have proposals for operating Clare Hall on an at-no-cost basis to the Council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Ash-Edwards, do you wish to speak or provide a written reply?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the approach we're taking is set out very clearly in the Cabinet discussions and the interim report that we've already considered from BOP. And I remind Councillor Bennett that Clare Hall is being used by the NHS at the moment and on an ongoing basis. And what we're doing is doing evidence-based work with cultural experts to ensure that we can have a venue that is fit for purpose and fit for the future. And that's what I'm determined that we'll deliver. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. That's the end of our meeting. I would like to thank members of the public, officers and members of the council for their attendance. And I close this meeting at 20 past, sorry, 9:17. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
That's all right.